Hi guys and welcome. So in today's video, we are going to discuss associationism, which is one of the important perspective of psychology. When we talk about the history of psychology, here, give me a minute. Yeah. When we talk about the history of psychology, there are many perspectives which we consider. The first is associationism, then you got structuralism, you have behaviorism, you have gestalt, psychoanalysis, and etc. So we would be first discussing associationism. It is one of the many important perspective. So let's start. So in this associationism, the people who believe in associationism are called associationists. Fine. Yeah. They are known as associationists. And now associationists, they describe psychology as the science of soul. Psychology is described according to them as psychology as science of soul. Now, who described psychology as science of soul? This was done by the associationist. Now, who are basically the associationists? So, associationists are the people who believe that complex ideas, your complex ideas, they are formed with associating simple ideas. Basically, what they're trying to say is that with the help of simple ideas, when you use your simple ideas, you make or you form a complex idea. This would be more cleared with an example, which I would be giving later. So that was the basis of associationism and what they believed. That complex idea is nothing but associationism of simple ideas. Now, one thing which we have to learn here is that there were basically two type of associationists. So associationist, why all are time? Yeah. Associationists were basically of two types. We got the older ones, older associationists, and the new associationist, or not new, basically, we'll call them later associationist. Now, for older associationists, we got very famous names like we have Aristotle, person who is no stranger to us. Then we got John Locke, and they were basically the associationist, the older associationist. The later associationists are Ebbinghaus, Thorndike, and Pavlov. Let me put a star here because Pavlov is a very important psychologist here. We would be studying about Pavlov later also. So you have to remember who was Pavlov. He's a very important person. Now, if we talk about Aristotle, his idea of associationism, let's understand Aristotle's idea of associationism. So Aristotle, he said that there are three primary laws of association. Three primary laws of association. Like how we associate things with one another. There are basically three laws which we follow. They are law of similarity, law of contrast, and the last one is law of contiguity. Now, let us understand each and every one with an example. For law of similarity talks about that when two things are very similar to each other, so the thought of one thing triggers the thought of another. For example, like when we think about tea, we often think about coffee also. See, so like both the things are somewhat similar. They are both beverage. They are both like a morning beverage. So when we think about tea, our mind also thinks about coffee. So that is law of similarity. So what this law of similarity said that when two things are very similar to each other, the thought of one triggers the thought of another. So that what happened here when I thought about tea. So the thought of tea made me think about coffee. So the thought of one triggered the thought of another. That is law of similarity. The second is law of contrast. Now, what does this law talks about? This law says that the thought of something is likely to trigger the thought of its direct opposite. Contrast. Here we talked about similarity. Here we're talking about the contrast, the difference, the polar opposite. When I'm thinking about something cold, I'm often reminded of something hot. Makes sense. Okay. So that is what law of contrast talked about. That is how we make associations. For example, if I have to remember like and coffee together, I would be like making association between them that what are the similarities, what are the um things which they both have in common. If I have remembered tea, it is very easy for me to remember coffee because I would be just making out the similarities between the tea and coffee. Same goes for cold. If I have remembered the phenomena of cold, it would be very easy for me to remember the phenomena of hot because I would be just making out the difference that these things were mentioned in cold concept. Now the polar opposites are what hot is. So that is how I have learned the concept of cold. That is how like I've learned the concept of hot using cold as my previous knowledge. Similar is this for tea and coffee. So this is very common. We all use these things to learn, but we didn't really knew what the terms were called. So that was law of similarity, and this is law of contrast. Now let us move to the third law, which is law of contiguity. Now contiguity talks about that we associate things that occur close to each other in time or space. In time or space. For example, if we think about thunder, we are immediately thinking about lightning also. When I think about thunder, I'm also reminded of lightning because both of these phenomena occur together, like most of the time, as the thunder is most of the time a prerequisite for lightning. So both of these things occur together. So when I think about thunder, I'm also reminded of lightning. So that is how law of contiguity works. It talks about the phenomena or it talks about the association which occur to each other in time and space. So that is the three laws which was given by Aristotle. Cool. Now let's move ahead to our second point. The second older association is John Locke. Now, John Locke, he gave a very important aspect of psychology. He gave a very important concept. Let me just write John Locke. I'm not even sure if this is visible to you guys. I hope it's visible now. Anyways, so John Locke, he gave the concept of tabula rasa. This is a very important term which is also used like in your honors and your other higher classes. What is tabula rasa? So this is a very important term. You have to remember what tabula rasa is and who gave the concept of tabula rasa basically. So John Locke gave the concept of tabula rasa. Now what does tabula rasa means? It says that the word tabula rasa means that an infant is born like a blank slate. Blank slate. Similar, like I would say in other terms, a very easy way to tell blank slate is like a blank blackboard, I would say. That is how an infant is born. So an infant is born like a blank slate. What he trying to say here is that when an infant is born, there is no knowledge, nothing, no information to him. He has blank knowledge, empty, null, nothing. And as he or she grows, the experience and the knowledge are recorded in this slate. That is what tabula rasa, and that is what the concept John Locke gave using tabula rasa. So he says that an infant is born like a blank slate, and as he or she grows, the experience and knowledge are recorded. So, like on this blank slate, the simple ideas come from the experience and knowledge, and then they combine to form complex ideas. So your experiences which you gain from time to time, the knowledge which you gain as you grow, they all combine to form complex ideas. So that was the concept given by John Locke in his concept of tabula rasa. So let us just revise what we have studied till now. Associationism, the people who believe in associationism are called associationists. Then associationist define psychology as one minute. Yeah. Associationists define psychology as the science of soul. Now, what does the basic idea behind associationism was that the complex ideas are formed because of the association of simple ideas. Now, associationists are divided into two categories, older associationists and later associationists. Older associationists, we have Aristotle, John Locke, and then later we have Ebbinghaus, Thorndike, Pavlov. So let's talk about what Aristotle gave. Three primary laws: law of similarity, law of contrast, and law of contiguity. Similarity talks about we form association on the basis of the similarity of two or more things. Contrast on the basis of the differences, and contiguity on the basis of the we form on the basis of the time and the space, occurrence of time and space of a phenomena. Next, we have John Locke. He gave the concept of tabula rasa. He said that an infant is born like a blank slate. There is no knowledge. As he or she grows, the experience and knowledge are recorded. And after that, the experience and this knowledge is used to form complex ideas. So that was all under older associationist. In the next video, we will be talking about the later associationist. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.